Ulysses here with Gray Area. This is our Spotlight series, and we're sitting here right next to Rafi. Well, not really right next to. We're, what, a couple hundred miles away? You're in Phoenix, Scottsdale?
Something like that, yeah. Scottsdale.
How are you doing?
I'm good, bro. Happy Monday.
Yeah,
We're
Monday.
here. Fun weekend. I got to surprise my mom. Her birthday was last Wednesday, so surprised her back home. Got her some presents. We spent the day in San Diego. Just cool to see the fam. It's
There
been a
you go.
minute.
There you go.
Yeah,
How do you enjoy San Diego?
I love San Diego. So like my parents are from there. I've always been there. I've been going there like my whole life, and it's just a beautiful area. Like it's hard to beat, honestly.
You're a SoCal boy, right? San Clemente?
I'm a SoCal boy, yep, San Clemente, born and raised. Similar vibe, just cool beach town, lots of surfing and beach activities. So,
Did you surf when you were growing up?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I surfed growing up. I had some really insane friends that were surfers, like borderline professional level. So I was
Oh,
never close to their level, but yeah, I could hang. I could track the lip a couple times.
it says more than what I can do, I'll tell you that much. So let's start there. Let's start with your childhood. Obviously, you're a DJ producer now, but was this ever in the cards for you? Did you look up to any DJs or producers growing up, or were you doing something completely different?
So honestly, like no DJs growing up. I got into music through Guitar Hero in
Oh,
fifth
okay.
grade. Yeah, so remember that game with like the fake guitar with you're trying to hit the notes.
Right.
So I became obsessed with that game, like no joke. I loved it. And I remember hearing Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses for the first time. And I go up to my parents, I'm like, I really want a real guitar now. Like I actually want to learn the guitar. And that's what kind of sparked my initial interest with music was literally Guitar Hero. And fast forward like a couple years later, my idols were like guitar players, Eddie Van Halen, Slash, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Eric Clapton, Joe Bonamassa. Like those were like my main guys that I looked up to and aspired to be. So um, the whole like DJ thing was kind of like a later thing in my life. Yeah, it's more recent, in other words.
So you have a guitar as a child. Where does that take you? Were you in a band?
Yeah, so within the 6 months of learning how to play guitar, I mean, I would lock up myself in my bathroom because I love the acoustics in there, and I would literally play guitar for like 5 hours after I came home from school. So I would get home at 3, and like I literally would do all my homework real quick and just like shred guitar. And I remember just being so obsessed with it, and then within like 6 months, I was in my first band, and we started playing all these like cool shows around the area. And then after that band broke up, a couple bands later, I met this girl named Sabrina who had an amazing voice, and she was like really pursuing music. And that's when we like actually did like mini tours, like through Sunset Strip. I played like Viper Room. I did Qualcomm Stadium when I was like in seventh grade, like in front of like 30,000 people. Like I didn't even know what was good. I was just like playing guitar. I didn't realize how like kind of gnarly it was. But yeah, we had like a good run, and then through that experience, like doing like these mini tours, we kind of matured and started another band. It was just like a lot of bands, and the last like my most recent band was all throughout like high school, and it was like more official. We were like indie rock kind of vibe, like Radiohead influence, stuff like that.
So how long
Yeah,
were
so
you playing for? Like how long was this band gig going? How long were you playing guitar?
so literally since like sixth grade up until like 12th grade and
Wow.
in high school. So like a long time. It was definitely like a huge part of my life. So I always knew I wanted to do music. Um, I thought I was just going to be in a band. This whole DJing, like producing thing, it just kind of happened out of it was kind of like lucky. But
So then explain that transition to me. When did you discover DJing, producing EDM, house music? How did you?
yeah, yeah. So I honestly vividly remember this. Like I don't think I'll ever forget this experience. I think I was in seventh or eighth grade in the summer, and my friend showed me a Datsik record, like crazy dubstep. And I remember being like, holy shit, I really want to find out how the hell he makes these sounds because, I was just playing guitar in a band, all these different noises, all these growl sounds. I didn't know it was possible to achieve that. And fast forward a few years later, I went to an art school, OSHA, called Orange County High School of the Arts. And within my conservatory, I was a commercial guitarist. That was like my conservatory. and they had like a Logic class, Logic Pro X class, and through that is when I officially started music production. Like I remember my friends showing me like what samples were. They're like, yeah, you could drag this in here, make any song you want. And I remember getting like really into it my freshman year, and I was like, okay, this is really cool. I like guitar, but I also like this, and yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
So that music production basically laid the groundwork for you to start learning production, or did you just DJ and then get into production? How did that work?
Yeah, it was definitely like my first introduction of what actually music production like I didn't before music production was just some like mysterious word. I didn't know what it actually was. But then at school, my freshman year, I learned what like MIDI was, audio, compression, all that stuff, like just like the basics of it. And yeah, that was kind of like the official. I was like really into Bauer, RL Grime, like it was like that era of electronic music. Like house hadn't made the wave. It wasn't like a big thing in the U.S.
Still very
Initially, but
yeah. So I guess my next question then is, how did that music production course lead you to you eventually producing and DJing? Did you start out DJing in small towns, or like how did that kind of work itself in?
yeah. So for me, DJing honestly is kind of like a more recent thing. I didn't really DJ that much in high school. I was just mostly playing guitar.
Okay.
And I wasn't really producing that much in high school either. All of this kind of happened during college. I remember going up to one of my social chairs in my fraternity, and I go up to him. I'm like, I really want to DJ this party. We had like a huge tailgate, one of the biggest of the year. And I was like, I really want to DJ this party. I want to show you guys what I got, blah, blah. Took a lot of convincing, but it ended up being one of the most epic parties we've ever had. And then from that moment, it was just kind of like, okay, like this crowd reaction. I've never gotten this crowd reaction playing guitar. It's just on
Right.
another level. The whole electronic, all these sounds that you can't replicate on traditional instruments. So ever since that moment, I was so hooked. I was like, I remember that day. Like, I remember dropping like a Mala song, like a Chami song, Confessions, and it just going off. And I was like, this is what I want to do.
I mean, to be honest, any Charmy or Model song is going to go off regardless, right?
Yeah, yeah, bro,
What's
they make bangers for sure.
right? What school was this?
I went to USC, University of
Oh,
Southern California.
go
Yeah,
Trojans. Yeah, one
yeah.
of my best friends goes to USC right now. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So were you focusing on music production, or were you taking different classes?
So I was a business admin major at USC. I was convinced that I was going to work like a 9 to 5 corporate job, whether in like finance, real estate, and my trajectory was leading me to that. But halfway through my education, I like my intuition was like, Rafi, you gotta take at least one music class, dude. Like you've been doing this since you're a kid. It's not like some random new thing. And I ended up doing a music industry minor, which was really really cool because like all the classes in that minor I loved, and all my business classes I wasn't like too interested in, But that's when like I really was real to myself, and I was like, okay, I want to do something in music for sure. And I had some great professors kind of lay down kind of like the music industry, what it entails, like the work ethic, the drive that it takes, and I knew that I wanted to do it.
Did you like what instilled in your mind that you had to do this 9 to 5 gig because you were doing music for so long, playing guitar?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like I got caught up into like what every kind of one else was doing. Like no one was doing music in my fraternity. No one really knew what house music was. It was just mostly like, the traditional go to college, get a
Right.
9 to 5, do this. And I mean, I just kind of like saw myself like molding myself to that. And I'm so glad I didn't, because I just like trusted my intuition, what makes me happy. I just couldn't see myself ever doing that.
Hey, good call there. Did you end up graduating with a degree within business, or did you just kind
Yeah,
of
so I ended up graduating with a degree in business admin and a minor in music industry,
okay?
which was cool. I took like an extra semester. It's called the Victory Lap.
I've heard of those.
Yeah.
So now post college, is
Yeah.
this when you start DJing? Were you producing more? When did that production come
Yeah.
about?
So what's important to know here in college is when I met my current manager, Wyatt.
Oh, okay.
Um, he actually is the one who kind of introduced me to like the whole house music scene, honestly. Like he was really into it. And I was still kind of listening to like older, like trap records, you know what I mean? And I remember him showing me like some like confession stuff, and I was blown away. I was like, yeah, this is dope. This is really dope. So I started like incorporating that into my sets. And like once we graduated, we like talked about it. And he also had this insane music industry drive. Like he wanted to be in the music industry. He loved it. He realized what like a manager entails. And he's like, I want to manage. So we, like, at that moment, we're like, all right, let's fucking do this. Like you'll be my manager. I'll be the artist. We'll work each other. We'll grind. We'll hold each other accountable. All the things. So, and I think after we graduated, like 2020, during COVID, is when it was almost like a blessing in disguise. I call 2020 like it was shitty that we were locked up inside for so long, but without COVID, like I wouldn't have discovered like another aspect of production. So to explain that, Disclosure was having these Twitter live streams where they were
Oh,
kind of just
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah. So they were going through all their fucking projects, dude. Like literally showing us the goods, like what they were doing, all the compression. And I remember like pausing it, like taking a photo of like the plugins, Googling it, and I was like, that's a $350 compressor. I'm like, no. I was like all these UAD things. But I remember like just like kind of like dialing in my sound. Like I never really I'm always self-taught with production. Like I would YouTube how to make blah blah blah. Like so it was all like through YouTube, and like it's same with guitar. I would just YouTube how to play blah blah blah, and I would just like kind of teach myself. So same vibe, but 2020 was huge for me because it allowed me to actually understand what production and like how to produce good records. You know what I mean? So shout out to Disclosure
yeah. Sweet.
for like their live streams, because like truly like they really helped me out. I didn't even know what like drum processing was. I didn't know what processing meant, and I just learned so much stuff about like EQ, compression, saturation.
You young kids have it so easy.
I know. We just Google something and we're there.
He's teaching you right off the bat.
Right, dude? Not complaining, not complaining.
So now that you're teaching yourself essentially and kind of learning the ropes from the big guys in the business and making it
Yeah.
your own, did you always know that you were going to produce house music, or were you going in a different lane? Because I know that you mentioned that you were interested in like more bassier stuff and like night
Yeah.
stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, like my early days, like in high school when I was just kind of screwing around with Logic, I was making like more like 140 trap records, like kind of wonkier shit. And it wasn't until like 2020 or 2021, 2020 when I started like actually making like house records, in other words. So yeah, to answer your question, like no, I just knew after college that I needed to learn how to produce that genre of music because I saw like the potential of it.
Right.
And then like fast forward a few years later, man, it's house is taken over, to say
Right.
the least.
Right. Seriously, what made you see that potential?
I think it was just mostly like the crowd reactions, honestly. Like I was always performing live, at a since a young age, ripping guitar and stuff. But there's something about like that BPM, like 126 to 130 BPM. It just drives you. People are just grooving, and it's one of those genres where you could show your grandma or your grandpa, and like they could still like groove. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like I mean, it's like such an international thing, right? So
Right.
it's not just, and that's what I didn't know. I didn't realize how big house music was, like the market of house music. Like it's such an international thing, like Latin America, Europe. It's crazy how the US is just always slow to adopt new trends, you know?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but you know what? We get there slowly but surely, and
Exactly.
gives people like you
Exactly.
a chance to show off what you got. Um, we want to talk a little bit more about that. Like you mentioned Latin America and all that. We want to talk about that Latin influence that you have in your music.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
this is something that I was drawn to a little bit. I'm Mexican, and so the idea of having that kind of Latin tinge and the Spanish
Oh,
lyrics,
a
it's
100%.
something that just obviously me, just first generation American, is like, oh, this calls me, this calls to me, you know. Um,
Totally.
what drew you to go into that direction for your first couple of tracks?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like my subconscious. Like I'm also from Latin descent, so I remember my parents playing, like Ricky Martin, Elvis Crespo, like Suavemente, like shit like that, and just like those like intricate, you know,
No,
Still a banger, dude. Still slaps so hard. But yeah, I just remember like it's I think it's like a subconscious thing, honestly. Like the Latin percussion just like resonates with me. It's like it sounds so good, and it's like there's a huge trend right now in tech house with like all these Latin records and stuff. But yeah, it was also just like the sample selection. It kind of just like worked out. Like I was it was almost like a subconscious thing. I wasn't trying to make like a sound. It just kind of like flowed together, and there's definitely like a Latin influence in it for sure.
are you trying to stay in that lane, or are you eventually going to expand out? Is this kind of just
Yeah, I mean,
that?
I don't want to be like set in stone with any genre, you know, it's just kind of like the flow of the creative process, you know. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I definitely want to make more like Latin style bangers for sure, more like percussion-y. I just love like the authentic percussion that Latin music has.
Is there any specific thing or track or demo that you sent out, because now you've got attention from um, Repopulate Mars, you got attention from Off the Grid. So, what tracks got you out there? What
I
demos?
think, yeah, the off the grid record helped a bunch. Landing that, being in like a stacked VA with all these amazing producers. Like I was looking up to Voltra and Andrus when I first started making, you know, like house music, and then it was kind of crazy to see my name with all
Right.
these dudes. Like fast forward a year later, and I was just like, I grinded so hard last year, bro. Like Saturdays, like I never like I would always be going out Fridays and Saturdays when I lived in LA, but living in Scottsdale kind of forced me to like really try to catch up with these really talented producers, you know, because they've been doing it for so long, and I would just in my room just trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. So the last year was really important for me. It was almost like it didn't feel like a sacrifice, but like looking back at it, like I definitely sacrificed fun for the grind, but in your 20s, I mean, that's what you got to do, you know. It's just part of the business.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, to get yourself out of that situation of temptation 24/7 in the big city, you're Scottsdale. I mean, it's up and coming. You got Tempe and all that stuff that's kind of up and coming too. But definitely, it's not an LA thing. It's not a New York thing. So it
Yeah,
gives you that focus too. To be able to kind of do your own thing.
exactly. It was definitely like escape, you know, because I knew so many people in LA, like going to USC and living there a couple of years after college. Like, there's always something happening on a Thursday night, a Friday night, Saturday night, you know. So just being out here, not really knowing anyone, and just concentrating on what I knew I needed to do has definitely propelled the project in a good way. Yeah.
So let's dive into a little bit of like what you want to accomplish as an artist. Is
Mhm.
there any particular, and I hate to sound cliche because I feel like everybody asks this question, but is there any particular goals since you're just starting off that you would like to see yourself accomplish in the next year or so, 2 years?
Yeah, I think it all starts with good releases, landing like some of my dream labels, like working hard to like finally get a contract, sign it,
Right.
release it on a sick label. I think a lot of there's like short-term goals, like day-to-day goals where I'm executing on my day-to-day, and there's like monthly goals, right? And there's like yearly goals. And like looking to the future, I would love to play festivals. I mean, I remember going to festivals when I was before I even knew how to produce, going to like Coachella my freshman year of high school, seeing like all these like electronic artists. Yeah. I finessed that so hard, by the way. My parents had no idea what Coachella was. I was literally 14, 15 going to Coachella. I'm like, yeah, it's like a music festival. And that actually was so huge because like that further inspired me to really to do music. And yeah, every time I have like these crazy experiences, I think it would be like a full circle moment for me to like play at like any festival. I think one of the coolest festivals I've ever been to is in Las Vegas, obviously EDC.
Right.
So electric.
Yeah.
Not like it's literally like a fairy tale. I mean, I can't even articulate it. But that one is up there. That would be like a cool goal of mine. And Lollapalooza in Chicago, that has like a special place in my heart because I went during my junior year of high school and just fell in love with Chicago. But don't get me wrong, dude, it's so humid in there. Like, oh my God, it's too humid for me. But
That,
it's
that's why
insane.
that's why I stay in SoCal. Like I'm not
Yeah,
the reason.
definitely.
There's a reason why people don't leave. It's just the perfect weather. Uh,
Exactly. It's literally
so
perfect.
what does Rafi do for fun? What do you do outside of music? You know, what kind of allows you to decompress and just let loose?
I mean, dude, I kind of don't have that much fun anymore, man. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's really important. Like before I sit in the studio for hours, my day to day, I love to wake up, do some cardio, fasted cardio, lift some weights. It just kind of helps reset my mind and, gets the natural endorphins running before. I feel like it helps with creativity in a weird way too. Just getting your body active, like, you kind of just like lock in better, at least for me. For fun, I love sports, dude. Huge Charger fan, huge Laker fan, huge Charger fan. I just been going to their games since I was a child. My dad got me really into sports, and I just like the reason why I'm so into sports too is just like it's just so competitive, and it's just like a bunch of like savage dudes going at it, like trying to accomplish one thing and just winning. And like something about that mindset, you could integrate it into like the music industry, and like I feel like that could propel you to like faster. Because I mean, it's like you have to perform. It's black or white. It's either you play a good game or you play like shit. And if you play like shit, you're gonna get cut, right? So it's so cutthroat like that, kind of similar to the music industry. It's just like you just got to tap into that mentality and just execute when it matters the most. And that's kind of like the mindset I have going into music as well, similar to like an athlete mindset, the Mamba mentality,
Right. No, I
Kobe.
totally get it. Yeah, I 100% get it. Um, is there anything in particular that we should know as far as Rafi's upcoming production, upcoming records? Anything that we're like kind of on the brink of announcing that we're getting ready to release?
Yeah, yeah. Me and my manager decided we're gonna do some couple self releases, like independent releases, just to get more music out, give the people what they want. Just keep it going, keep it flowing. And I think I'm gonna start making some cool edits pretty soon, like free download stuff, just to get more music out there. Because you know how long it takes to get a record signed. You have like 5, 10 tracks that you're like shipping out, and finding a release date, finding this. And I feel like I'm so new to this journey. Like we're just getting started, we're just scratching the surface. That I just people need to hear what I'm making. Just get it out there to the people. Yeah.
Absolutely. And not just getting it out to the people, but also seeing you perform live. So, the last couple of months, have you been performing? Where have you been seeing a lot of traction?
Yeah, man. So starting in March, it was kind of like the most. It was like we did a lot of cool show runs. I got to experience different states for the first time. I just got back from Denver, played Laramie Lounge for a headline set there. Super epic vibes. Love Denver. Love that city. The elevation gets you, dude.
Oh,
Like two beers is like five over there, man. It got me, bro. It got me, not gonna lie. But that was super fun. I went to Salt Lake City, opened up for Hot Since '82, which was epic.
that's
And then this next weekend, I'm going to Austin, opening up for Eddie M, who's also like a huge inspiration for me. So it's just cool to reflect. Looking back a year ago during this time, I didn't really have any records out, but now like a year later, after like this grind and a lot of cool things are happening.
and it's all about that journey, understanding that it's going to come in its own time, and in the meantime, it's like you said, and it's exactly what you've been doing, just grinding it out and making sure that people listen to what you have to offer, because eventually what people are going to enjoy out of you is what you produce, and once you have it out there and you play for people, fans will follow. you know
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Totally agree. Yeah, I like how you said everyone has their own journey.
1,000%.
I, you could literally fall into the trap of comparing yourself to other people and just like it's just like dude, like if you think about it, we're literally on a floating rock in the middle of space. Like do what you fucking love and work super hard at it, and like good things will happen. I'm so like confident about that because I've seen it transpire my entire life ever since I was in 5th grade, getting with Guitar Hero, working really hard at guitar, then it led to a band, led to this. So it's all part of like this flow of life that you just
and I'm
gotta
glad,
love.
and I'm glad that you have that mentality. But just to play devil's advocate here, do you get any type of like negative feedback in your head every once in a while? Do you
Oh,
compare?
dude, I mean, everyone has doubts. Everyone has doubts. Everyone kind of feels that anxiety. I think more recently, when I first started music production, before it was like really fun. Like, oh yeah, let's make a song, blah, blah, blah. But now, like, when you have deadlines, in other words, it's hard to like put a deadline on creativity. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like, be creative in a week. Like, you do this in a week, do this. And it kind of feels like a little forced and like, you're kind of like, oh, I hate this kick sample. I'm gonna, like, it just, you kind of like in your head, but it's just part of the process, man. Everyone has these doubts too. And if you're not anxious, you know, then do you care really? You know what I mean? It's like you kind of have to have like some doubt. You know, you have to have the left angel and the right devil. You know, it's like the yin and yang. But yeah, that's kind of like a more recent thing. Just be happy. Like I'm literally doing what I love, and like you said, everyone has their own time. So just enjoy the journey.
I'm glad that you have that mentality. Do I mean, you've mentioned plenty of artists from like the jock, let's say jock, the rock, the rock genre to
Yeah.
trap and bass. Who are your inspirations? Who do you look up to?
So I like to compartmentalize it into like different genres of music just because I have so many influences. For like classic rock, my idols are Eric Johnson. I think he's one of my favorite. His tone is so sick, dude. Like the Fender Strat. And then with like house music, I've been really loving Black Child. I think he has such a sick sound. I really love like the 131 BPM, just like groovers. He's so good at like sampling records and putting his own spin to it. And yeah, I guess other producers I like. There's so many, dude. It's like actually insane. Solid Grooves guys for sure. Like I love that. I love their vibe, and they kind of just like shit on everyone in terms of like all their tracks have minimal elements, but it's all about making those minimal elements like sound like amazing. You know, it's all in like the sample selection, and they're just legends, dude. They're fucking bosses. So that's definitely like my inspiration right now is like that. Just super. It's all about the groove, right? How it makes you feel, how it makes you dance, and you can't forget about the groove.
Absolutely. Last question here. We mentioned that you tend to be a sports fan and you tend to have that's kind of like your outlet as far as like going out and just doing other things that allow you to have fun in that sense. But
Mhm.
what keeps you grounded? What keeps you motivated to keep doing what you're doing right now?
It comes down to a couple things. Like obviously, I have a good relationship with my parents, and they kind of keep me grounded. And whenever I'm having like troubles or something, they'll like I could talk to them, and they could be like, okay, like just part of life, the grind. You have your doubts, but also just like me and my manager's relationship. Like we hold each other accountable to a lot of things, and it's like having like a rock like that we could like both trust each other is what like makes everything like doable. Like it's like yeah, we're gonna do this, and then we set our mind to it, and like we kind of are kind of just scratching the surface. But yeah, also just like I've been meditating a lot. Just like being more zen, letting the universe come to me and listening and stuff like that. And I think that's super cool to have like some spirituality aspect to this crazy life, and just to like it makes you feel like almost like better in a way. You're just more zen, and you're not really thinking of the future, because I realize a lot of the anxiety that I think about is all just me thinking of the future. I just gotta be in the present, lock in on what I need to do, execute, and then move on from there. So I think that's what honestly is keeping me grounded, because this industry is hectic, man. I've learned it this last year, man. It's a lot of pressure, a lot of travel, but if you love it and you're grounded, you could achieve anything you want to do.
I agree. It is a very do. It's a tough industry. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it's tough. Just
You
just
gotta
say
have,
it nicely.
grit, and that's why I ask. You got to make sure that you know what you're doing and you're staying grounded. It sounds like you're doing everything right. Rafi, is there anything else that you would like to let our audience know?
No, just thank you so much for this opportunity to let you talk about my whole artist journey. It's super cool. It's
Yeah.
kind of cool to reflect about it. I haven't really like thought about the whole process, but yeah, it makes me stoked.
Well, the idea here is to reflect on it more in 5, 10 years and look back at this interview and said, "Oh wow, I had no idea what I was getting myself into."
Yeah, no, I feel it's gonna be definitely funny looking back at this in like 5 years time and seeing where we're at.
Well, Rafi, thank you so much for the interview. I really appreciate it. This has been
Thank
Ulysses
you, man.
Gray Area. See you next time.
I appreciate it, man. Have a good one, bro.